Hey, and welcome back to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted weather source, your no-nonsense weather guy, and welcome to the Weather Report as we get you ready for the upcoming holiday weekend, really getting underway. And unfortunately, it looks like Mother Nature is going to be playing some games with us. And so when I say travel nightmare on my little thumbnail there, I'm not kidding. It's going to be some places it's going to be a bit of a headache. Looks like Chicago especially could be hit pretty good going into the end of the week. Now, before we get into this whole report, again, if you're new here to the channel, please let me introduce myself. I'm meteorologist Greg Majeski. Been a broadcast meteorologist for a lot of years, and our goal here on this channel is to give you no-nonsense weather. There's a lot of hype out there, a ton of it across the social media spectrum, and we're trying to combat that a little bit. So if you consider someone with experience, somebody's going to give it to you straight and not hype every storm as the storm of the century, like watch this, look at this, watch this, then I'm your guy. Please consider subscribing to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Well, first, let me go ahead and tell everybody I apologize for not being here on Monday. I had to go work at Fox 5 on that day. And then yesterday, we had some severe weather here down in North Georgia, and I was doing severe weather coverage, and I was having trouble with YouTube to simulcast for some reason, so I wasn't able to do that. My apologies. I think we got it worked out right now. And back to get you ready here for the holiday. Now, let's go ahead and break everything down here. We always like to kind of look at the highs and lows across the country yesterday. -5 was in Dubois, West Wyoming. Dubois, Wyoming was -5 yesterday, and 93 was down in Hidalgo, Texas. Those were our highs and lows there across the country there on your Tuesday. All right, let's go look at our weather map. Let's get into that real quick. Let's transition over to this. There we go. We can get out of studio mode. There we go. All right, a lot to talk about. Definitely things looking a lot colder here across the nation. We knew that was coming. And I tell you, the trend, I think, is overall staying colder. There's some differences in agreement I'm going to show you on the European as compared to what the climate outlook is showing here a little bit. I want to show you some of that. But one thing's for sure, we got cold air to deal with. We got an active weather pattern that's going to be setting up these opportunities for snow. We've got very blizzard conditions here possible at the UP of Michigan just for today. Snow across the Great Lakes. And looks like we're going to see a decent snowstorm here at the end of the week, kind of in this neighborhood right here as we go in toward the end of the week. And some pretty impressive snow totals to show you here on the European model when we get to that, okay? Now, as far as current watches and warnings here across the nation, again, you can see that some of that initial snows causing some travel headaches up here across Minnesota, Wisconsin, UP and Michigan. Again, we got some blizzard warnings up there. Also down here in the lower end of Michigan as well with some winter storm warnings and stuff. Look how breezy it is. Got a lot of wind around this as well with the wind advisories up across the Great Lakes. And it's going to be very breezy. I was seeing some of the postings talking about the heavy wave heights there across Lake Erie, for example. So a very, very treacherous Great Lakes right now. A little bit of fog out in the west. Got a little bit out there and a little fog and a little winter weather up here across the upper part of Montana and Idaho, but that's about it. But things are going to get progressively a little more active here as far as the winter weather is concerned. Now, speaking of that, we go up here and take a look at some of this. This is your winter weather, winter showing some of the snows up here in the UP and Michigan. That blue area that you're seeing in there, that's calling for a higher risk of 4 inches plus, and then it kind of goes up a moderate risk, and then you get the low risk, but a very good high risk down here, even down here toward parts of Michigan. This is the short term. This is the initial snowstorm that we're seeing. So these areas here are going to be seeing some pretty good snows. We're getting a little bit up near Marquette right now with some snows in the area, and that'll be kind of increasing as we go throughout the day. All right, now let's go look at your weather-wise. We're going to start breaking down here as far as thunderstorm threat. Really looking a lot less active out there today. That's the good news there. You kind of see that along the East Coast, general thunderstorm threat here from up near the northeast down toward Florida, a little bit down here towards South Florida. Your day 2 outlook, just extreme South Florida there. Day 3 here in Texas, got a little bit out in Texas. But right now, going here from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so we start the holiday weekend, things not looking bad from a thunderstorm perspective, looking pretty good there. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the model data. And we got a lot to break down here for you guys. So let's go ahead and get into this and kind of show you what's going on here. All right. So let's go look here. We're going to first look at the 3-kilometer NAM, our intermediate model. And boy, a lot more blue on this map than what we were seeing the last week when we were tracking this stuff. So obviously, let me slow this down here a little bit. Our first snowstorm that we're dealing with is what's coming over the Great Lakes, that low pressure system up there. You see some pretty good snows. Again, that's what's causing the blizzard conditions. Look at the packing of the lines in here. You got a lot of isobars in here. So you got a lot of wind, big pressure gradient there. So some pretty good snows there across that area, across Wisconsin And again, this is going to shift over, and the lake effect's going to kick in there across Michigan, Ohio, and getting into New York there as the lake effect kind of kicks in there, and that moves on. Then we're looking out here on the West Coast on your Thanksgiving Day. We got a pretty good storm system out here to watch, and it's that one that's going to drop in there. That's going to be the one to watch going into next week. Not next week, end of the week. That's the one we got to watch there. So this goes on forward. Take this on. They get some snows across the northeast. Definitely much colder. Look at the freezing line, folks. This is very far south. We got this thing driving all the way down here into the south. So we got some very cold temperatures here across the eastern third of the United States here as we're looking at a very active cold pattern here setting up here. And then we're going to watch this system here. That's you start seeing late on Friday. See that puppy right there? This thing coming out here on Friday afternoon is going to really kind of shoot into this area with that cold air in place. That's going to make it very snowy in Chicagoland area. We're talking some decent totals on folks. I'm talking, 8+ inches possibly in some locations, maybe even higher. Okay, so looking very, very cold because we're definitely going to see that. This is your next couple days. You're going to notice a lot of blue. That's 32 degrees or below. So that is staying in place. So we're locking in the cold air, especially across this area around Illinois, Iowa, and in the areas of Michigan and Wisconsin. That's going to allow that precipitation to fall predominantly as snow. So it's going to be a very wintry, cold mess. So it's good news that it's happening today. The only travel hotspots really up around the Great Lakes, like Chicago Airport, O'Hare, I think can run into some very big delays there going into Friday and Saturday especially. Okay, so here's our precipitation totals here. Again, some of this up here is going to be obviously snow up here. Here's our next storm system on the west coast here. Not looking too bad here across the East Coast, and of course the Southwest looking pretty dry here. This takes us right up into Friday afternoon, okay? Let me turn my timestamp back on here. There we go. Up to Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, all right? Now, precipitation for our snow. Here's the Great Lakes, all right? This takes us right through Friday. You got a lot of heavy snows up here in the UP. Look at this, 23 inches, 26 inches. I mean, we're blizzard-like conditions, very, very bad. Wisconsin's getting some up here in upper Wisconsin, near Minneapolis, coming back over here into areas of Michigan as well. Muskegon, Cadillac getting some pretty good snow, 17 inches. Again, this is the initial one. This is just the one we're dealing with, that big low over the Great Lakes. And then it shifts over into New York State. We get the lake effect machine going here. 14 inches showing up near Jamestown, up near Buffalo, Utica, 11 inches here just north of there. So again, I'm going to start lighting up the Great Lakes a little bit, and we're going to get some pretty good snows out there. We also get some out here in the west too. Don't forget about our friends out here on the west coast with that next storm system moving in. We'll get some higher elevation snows here, 7, 8, 12, some localized heavier amounts up in the higher elevations, but some pretty good snows across Idaho and into Missouri as well. Again, this takes us to 1 o'clock on Friday. 1 o'clock on Friday. That's just our initial stuff. We got a lot of snow to talk about in this update, all right? Now, let's talk about the weather pattern. Last week, or what we thought was going to be happening, is that we thought we were going to get some ridging here across the southeast that was going to keep us on the warm side there. And what I'm seeing here is a very progressive pattern where you've got one shot after another. Let me slow this down for you here. You got this initial cold shot coming down. That's this one. That's the one we're dealing with right now. And you're just going to see these, they're just one after another, just continues to drop down. So there goes that one. Here's the other one. That's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. There's 6. And then maybe a little ridge in there right at the end. But it's just one after another. So like the eastern half of the United States looks like it's going to stay cold. Even the west coast gets a little cool there on the last part of this. But it looks like the eastern half of the United States here going into December is just going to see one cold shot after another. Just kind of following one after another. And each opportunity will bring opportunities, obviously, for snow, depending on how the storm track and everything sets up. So it looks like we're going to start December pretty active. As again, we were talking about the stratospheric warming that was kind of triggered a few days ago. We're going to have that cold air kind of coming on down as that polar vortex becomes a little unstable, and you get these little Arctic intrusions that be coming down across the country. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this. Let me slow this down here. We're going to talk about this next storm system. Again, we got this one coming in here out of the west. This is going to be our big one here, our more significant one coming out on Friday, okay? So the European is a little bit slower than they am, but not by much. All right, so this is going to come on down going into Saturday morning. So we're talking Chicago, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, maybe some thunderstorms here down toward Texas here on Saturday. And now this is a pretty good snow event. I mean, really good. It's going to last a few hours. It's going to dump some pretty good snows here. This goes into Sunday morning. It doesn't clear until Sunday morning. So we're looking at a good 20, 20 hours of snow going over some areas there. So that's going to be some pretty good totals there. It's going to moves on off. And looks like, again, the problem here is on Saturday is going to be a bit of a headache. Sunday it may get out of there. So O'Hare and Midway airports in Chicago, being a big travel hub, could be a problem there. And cancellation of a lot of flights, and that can cascade across the system. So a lot of folks flying home on Sunday may have some problems because of this big snowstorm on Saturday. All right, so this moves on out. Then we got another little weak system here coming across the south. And you get a little winter precipitation here going here across the mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes here, going into Tuesday next week. The GFS is a little bit more aggressive with this, bringing the snow a little bit further south. But this moves on by, and then you get some snows going into New England. A little bit of a East Coast storm there. This heads on out, but if it bends further back, that could be more significant snowstorm there toward the end of next week. All right, so that's the next 7 days. So we got really two kind of systems to kind of track here over the next week. But the one going to the end of the week, boy, that one's going to be significant. So you got the one we're dealing with right now for the next day and a half going to the Great Lakes, the one on Saturday, and then the one going into early next week. All right, so let's talk about rainfall totals. Look at the east, man. Look at all the snow here. Rain chances here across the east. Just cut the country in half. This is very wet. Not so much across the southwest. The northwest looking a little wet. Now let's pull up the snow totals here. This gets interesting. Look how much of the country is seeing a lot of snow here, right through the 5th. And this one is with our big snowstorm this week, this coming up the end of this week, going into Saturday. Look at this, 12 inches here in Iowa, 14, I'm going a little bit closer here. So Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Chicago, Milwaukee, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, again, just a lot of areas are going to see a lot of snow. Some of this is what's coming up with, currently, but this is a lot with the next storm. You see the blue, you're talking 5 inches plus, 6 inches plus, the purple. So we're talking about a pretty good significant snowstorm there. And we're going to get snows out in the Intermountain West as well. So just look how much of the country is going to get some good snows here over the first 10 days. All right, you start building a snowpack in the United States, and it looks like it's going to stay cold too. So it may not, just snow for a day and then be gone, and maybe sticking around just a little while. I got this looping. I'm just looping this all the way through to show you that the cold air looks like it's going to be staying in place over a lot of the country going into December. Again, the blue is sub 32 degree temperatures. Okay, and so you obviously got the daytime fluctuations and stuff in there. And you see that purple, that's below zero temperatures showing up in there. So again, the overall pattern here going in through December the 10th shows colder pattern staying with us. All right, now compare that what we're seeing over here on the climate outlook. I do want to show you this again, and I did remember to reset it this time, so good for me. I get a star. All right, so let's look at this. This right here, this is okay. I'm all right with this. Okay, we got a little bit of a battleground here across the southeast. I'm not sure if it's going to stay that warm in my neck of the woods because it really looks cold next week. Very cold across the Great Lakes, a little milder here across the West Coast. Florida will probably stay on the warm side. I'm okay with that, but I'm not sure about the whole south. But look here as we go out from the 8th to the 14th. This is going from the 3rd to the 9th. I don't know if this is going to hold in place. I really don't. This is a lot of the country here warming up across the south, and I think the cold air, as you've seen, we're getting these waves of cold air just coming on down. And I'm just not seeing a big warm up there. Now, one thing I do agree with here is the precipitation here. This looks pretty active here across the south next week. Some pretty good rains here. A little drier here on the West Coast. And then as far as going out beyond that, going from the 3rd to the 9th, a little wetter out in the West Coast. Generally, people are pretty near average or just slightly above with the precipitation chances here going into the 9th. So it's definitely getting more active out there, folks. Folks need to just pay attention. Winter, I think, getting a little bit of an early jump here a little bit across the country. We kind of saw this coming because we were talking about a week ago about the stratospheric warming event up in Canada. We knew we were going to dislodge some cold air. Now it's going to be very, changing, oscillating from one day to the next. All right, so it's going to keep it a little uncertain here where the weather pattern is going to change. It's going to cause some forecasting challenges, to say the least. And I think that's what we're going to see all winter. I think the winter overall is going to be one of oscillation, especially with La Nina expected to fade through the month of December. And in January, I think it's going to be, just bouts of extremes, extreme cold, extreme warm, depending on how the jet stream sets up across the nation. Anyway, who do we got there this morning? We got Ryan out there this morning. Good to see you out there. I'm sure my regular folks will come on regularly. If you guys coming on here afterwards, I apologize again. Like I said, last couple days, I had to go work at the TV station on Fox on Monday, and then yesterday it was having a little technical problem when we were doing some severe weather coverage. So anyway, back on here. You guys have a great and safe Thanksgiving Day holiday. I do appreciate you. We will not be broadcasting tomorrow. We'll be taking the holiday off, but we will have your weekend update on Friday, and we'll have the latest on that snowstorm on Saturday, especially across the middle of the country, the coming out of Iowa and going in toward Illinois and Wisconsin and all that area. So looks like it's going to be a little wintry and definitely on the cold side. One of the coldest Thanksgivings we've had here in the Southeast in 10 years. I was checking the records on that. So anyway, you guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you on Friday. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving with your families. Bye-bye.